In the world we live in, having one income stream is not enough. I do not care if you think your job is the most stable career in the world, because in March 2020, I was working as a teacher and I thought certainly there will always be a need for teachers. My job is not going anywhere. And then all of a sudden, my job disappeared due to global circumstances. Flash forward 3 years later, I was working a job in tech recruiting and my position was eliminated as part of a larger reduction in force.
Y'all are going to be mad at me when I say this, but this economy is not for single people. This economy is not for single parents. This economy is not for anybody that is working one job. Unless you want to be working 62 jobs and starting 32 businesses and working 72 hours a week, we need to move with a lot more intention out here. Two incomes are better than one.
I've been a stay-at-home mom for the last 8 years, and this week my husband got laid off. And it's more scary and overwhelming than I ever expected it to be. A lot of it feels out of my control, but obviously we knew it could happen. When you only have one income, you prepare for these things, but it kind of feels like we didn't prepare enough.
In this economy, modern economy, if you think that you are going to have one job and think that's going to be able to suffice and stabilize your lifestyle, you're fucking stupid.
I'll be 32 years old in May, and my family is barely surviving paycheck to paycheck. We are a family of 3 and we live off of one income, which is my husband's.
What is so sad about this economy is that a lot of us have to work 2-3 jobs and side hustles just to get by.
I don't want to get, kicked out of here. My daughter needs a place to stay, and I'm literally trying my best. Right now I'm applying for a second job. I've been trying to make money on TikTok. Making ends meet has been super rough.
In this economy, modern economy, if you think that you are going to have one job and think that's going to be able to suffice and stabilize your lifestyle, you're fucking stupid. People have to understand that your job is meant to be your foundation, but within that job, you have to save and invest for your future. You will have no future if you don't make no plans for the future. Retirement, 401k, Roth IRA, things of that nature. Because when you do get sick, because you will, or you have your ups and downs, you're not going to be able to pay for the things, especially the fact that everything keeps increasing. So you got to make a side income. You got to have a side hustle, something to complement your mainly source of income. Like, I don't get it. People want this fast money, fast this. Yes, when you're young, you take risks, no problem, right? You take calculated risks, but you also have to do the small investments that's going to increase over time, compound interest. I don't know if you heard that thing, while you're building, because yes, you have your job and your main source of income. You have your side investments that you make that are not that, you won't get a return on your money so fast. And then you take the risk outside of that. So you have a 3-layered step plan to your future. You don't have none of those things, you will be broke.
So I was having difficulty following him at first, but I follow him. I think I got it. So he pretty much went down 3 lanes. He's saying that it's essential that you have more than one income for 3 reasons. 1, so that you can put money away for retirement. 2, so that you can have money to put away for a rainy day because things happen, life's ups and downs, to deal with that. And so you're not left out hanging to dry if you lose your job, for example. And 3, so that you can use some of it to take more risk. And I'm guessing he meant use it to help fund a business or maybe invest in some assets that maybe aren't the most stable, i.e. say crypto, for example. So I think that's where he was going with it, and that's his 3-layer tier or system he's talking about. Not only are things more expensive, inflation is definitely more than 3.5% or whatever the Fed likes to say it is. I do think that it's also important to have more than one income because it does allow you to do certain things that you don't necessarily want to do with your foundational income, which is your main source of income. So I do like his train of thought. I do like his reasoning. And so a lot of people do complain that one income is not enough to survive. And so it is essential in a way to get a second job if you need to, so that you can pay for all your essentials and then hopefully have a little bit left over to do the things he's talking about.
I'll be 32 years old in May, and my family is barely surviving paycheck to paycheck. We are a family of three and we live off of one income, which is my husband's, who he works in a factory and he makes $21 an hour. And I need you to understand that and let that sink in. He makes like triple the minimum wage, okay? So he makes that much money, and there is me and him and our toddler, and we are barely surviving. I have to literally stop paying certain bills. I'm a month behind at all times on my mortgage. I have all these late fees. My electric bill, I literally just have to stop paying. My credit card bill is always late, and it's like I literally have one credit card, and it's got a $2,000 limit, and I can't pay it off. I can't pay it down. I've had to use it to pay bills. And all that. And I say all this to compare it to when my mom, when she was 32 years old, in 1998, she owned a house, she was married, she owned a car, she owned her own business, which she ran out of her house. And this was not like something she made a shit ton of money with. Like this was just like a basic ass income with her embroidery business. And then my dad was a manager at a grocery store, and not like a head manager. Like he ran the dairy department. Like he only ran a single department. And they sent both their kids to Catholic school, which means they paid 2 tuitions. And like we had enough money that like this is when I was little, by the way. Like we were able to afford to do things and go out to dinner and get pizza every Friday night. And like we lived a basic, normal, middle class life up until my parents split. But my point is that like they were 32 living so fucking comfortably on these normal ass jobs. Like my mom went to college and had a degree, but that's not what she was doing. My dad didn't go to college, and my husband works a blue collar, basic job. And I'm a stay-at-home parent out of necessity, not by choice. We're barely making ends meet. Like, the change that has happened in 30 years is fucking insane. And when you try to tell them this and you try to explain this to them, it's just the like, oh, I struggled at your age too. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. And you guys had safety nets of social programs and your own parents.
Not all boomers were just well off and didn't struggle. Every generation's had their issues. I will say that the data does show that when you compare the cost of education, specifically higher education, college, university, to the baby boomer generation to now, it is significantly higher. And when you compare the cost of, as we all see, housing for the boomer generation to now, it is significantly higher. Have wages increased? Yes. But when you look at the difference in how much wages were for the boomer generation compared to how much homes cost on average, or the median home, to now where wages are compared to the average or median home, the difference is much larger for the millennial, Gen Z, maybe even Gen X generation. There's some other factors that we need to take into account here as well that we don't have the information about. And the main thing is, where does she live versus where do her parents live, or where did they live? Because there's something called real income. Real income is the money that you make after adjusting for inflation. What is inflation? Inflation is a gradual change in prices of a group of goods and services. And a big part of that is home prices and rents. And a big part of that is determined by where you live. So if you're someone who lives in, say, Washington, D.C., which is a very high cost of living area, versus someone who lives in, say, Dallas, Texas, the difference in your real income is going to be 35% higher in Dallas than it is in DC. Two people. One lives in Dallas, one lives in DC. They both earn $100,000 per year. The person that lives in Dallas has 35% more purchasing power than the person that lives in DC. And that's because why? The cost of, let's say, rent in Dallas is going to be lower than the cost of rent in DC. Taxes are probably going to be lower than it is in DC. Even costs of some goods and services are going to be lower, such as food items, things of that nature. So where does she live? Where do her parents live? Because her husband makes, she said, $21 an hour, so about $42,000 a year. That's actually a bit lower than the median in the US. So he's not actually making what the median is. Not to say he's making bad income, but it's to say that, okay, he's making $42,000. Let's adjust that for what her parents were making in the 90s. She has a valid point. I want to give her that. At the same time, there are some things that she might be able to change to improve her. Oh, it says Pennsylvania here. So I guess she lives in Pennsylvania. I'm not too familiar with the cost of living in Pennsylvania. It's actually probably not that. It's probably Pennsylvania, depends where she lives, even if it's in somewhere like Pittsburgh or Philadelphia, let's exclude Philadelphia, it's gonna be probably a medium to low cost of living area. So she's probably not a very high cost of living area. So, you know, it may just be that her husband, and this is not taking a shot at him, obviously, but it may just be that her husband isn't earning enough, clearly, for them to survive. And so there has to be some changes made there.
I'm not trying to be super political, but what is so sad about this economy is that a lot of us have to work 2-3 jobs and side hustles just to get by. Like, I really wish we can go back to the times when you can live off of one salary, support an entire family, buy a house, get a car on one salary. Like, if you work at least 2 jobs, you know the struggle, you know the pain, the aches. Like, I go home so tired after my second job. I have physical fatigue. My first job is just a desk job. I don't really care. Like, mentally, I'm tired. But when I work at Boba, I'm running around, taking care of customers, getting drinks, the food. And physically, I'm tired. And mentally, I'm even more tired. So it is not fun. But I think it is so worth it in the long run. It's not fun. And if you're one of those people, I applaud you. I respect you. And honestly, let's get this bread and retire or achieve our dreams as soon as possible.
You know, I kind of get tired of hearing people harken back to this time they thought were so amazing and special and everyone was so well off. Listen, did the baby boomer generation have it good? I guess you could say so, but a lot of it was just timing. Because if you think about it, why are they called baby boomers in the first place? It's because after World War II, there was a boom in baby making, right? People came back from the war, they had kids, and obviously after the war, because of the war and after the war, things changed drastically. As far as GI Bills and all these cookie cutter houses that were built, everyone got a house essentially. Access to education was increased, again, partly through the GI Bill. These different things occurred. Also, the economy changed to a more consumer economy. Like, people don't realize that credit cards weren't even a thing until maybe the 50s or 60s. And all this was driven because companies knew that there was more money to be had. The economy was going through a massive change. And there are plenty of documentaries on this you can check out if you have the free time. And so, yes, boomers had it good. A lot of it was, I guess you could say, luck of timing. And the economy's changed since then. So today's economy, now you hear people say stuff like late stage capitalism and things of that nature because, yeah, it's a lot different than it was from the Industrial Revolution and post-World War II. So yes, I want to acknowledge all of that, but at the same time, it's not making it seem like everything was rainbows and sunshine, 50, 60 years ago. And again, this channel, I definitely do not like to touch upon demographics and politics and race and gender and all these things. I let that just be. So let's not even talk about it, even though all those things do play into, finances and, back in the day in the 60s or the 70s or the 50s. But to the point, do a lot of people now need more than one job, especially when you're young and especially depending on the type of job you're doing and the stage of life you're in? Yeah. But again, has it not always been the case? Well, maybe when you were younger before, you only needed one job. Maybe you still hustled and bustled at that one, but you only needed one. Versus now, yeah, maybe you need two, especially if one of your jobs, let's say you're a server, the other, you're going to school, and the other job you're working, at some store or something. It all depends on the stage of life you're in. Or if you graduate college, you have all these student loans you got to start paying off. So maybe you have two jobs at that point. But hopefully, along the lines, you start to earn more income. You can drop one of those jobs once you pay some of your debt off. Stuff like that.
My rent here is $2,000. My paychecks basically match my rent. So I don't have enough to even pay for the debt that I have or for utilities. Luckily, my townhome manager has been so nice and kind to let me pay late and be manageable and patient with me. And I feel like I'm getting scared. I don't want him to reach his limit to the point where, I don't want to get kicked out of here. My daughter needs a place to stay and I'm literally trying my best. Right now I'm applying for a second job. I've been trying to make money on TikTok. Making ends meet has been super rough. I applied to food stamps again. I haven't had food stamps or state assistant since nursing school because I really wasn't working then. I was focused on school. And I'm not even eligible. I make too much. They focus on gross income. They don't even look at the fact that everything that you pay for, they don't take that into account. They don't care. If you're not 150% below poverty, they're not going to help you. And that's how it's always been. Of course, I'm grateful to have a job, to be able to work another job if I can, which that's what I'm trying to do. I'm able to have, an income, but I'm literally trying to not drown. Like I'm almost at the brink of not being able to make ends meet here. And of course, people have told me, money management. I've tried to teach myself how to budget. That doesn't really work because of my debt to income ratio right now. Of course, in the past, I've been irresponsible and that has followed me, and I'm trying my best now to manage what I can. I'm over $27,000 in student loan debt. I lost my car last year, so that took off $14,000 from my debt, so I don't have a car. I'm trying my best to money manage, pick up shifts. I pick up shifts that goes towards taxes, Medicare, my benefits. It sucks. I feel like I can't stay afloat, and I'm like literally doing the best I can. I've applied to over 10 jobs this past month. Nobody's called me back for some reason. It's kind of strange. Right now I work in the ER, but picking up shifts haven't really helped because it just gets taken out. The incentive, the money that you make gets taken out. It's like, what's the point? The lady that was talking to me about the food stamp interview, she was like, I put 10% into my savings. And I was like, I so wish that I could put 10% of my paycheck into my savings and save like a normal person. But with my personal debt and everything else, like utilities, food, that it doesn't make sense.
Okay, so she said it probably 6-7 times. So obviously her issue is more so she has too much debt. It's not even necessarily that she can't survive off of one income in general. It's just that she can't survive off one income with a lot of debt. And I think that is the underscoring theme for a lot of people who are saying that one income isn't enough. Because I think that one income can be enough depending on the decisions you make and the amount of debt that you have. If you have tons of student loan debt, if you have a large mortgage, if you have a bunch of car loan debt, a lot of credit card debt, et cetera, then yes, one income probably won't keep you afloat. But as a staff nurse, you make decent money. I'm not sure what she makes. I can look up the median income for a staff nurse in the US, but I'm gonna guess it's somewhere around the median, at least $60,000 a year. And so her saying that at the end of the month, she barely has enough to just meet her $2,000 a month rent does let you know that she is pretty much drowning in debt and she needs some relief. And it's not just her. Again, it's a lot of people. And it's not even taking a shot at her. She says she made bad decisions. A lot of us make bad decisions, especially when we're younger. Of course, who hasn't? Whether it be financially, whether it be otherwise. So this is not to say she's a bad person. It's just to say it's not just as simple as saying, oh, it was so much better in the past and things were better for baby boomers and it's way too expensive to live now. No one can survive off one income. Not necessarily true. Let's say that you're someone who, if you're someone who makes, let's say, $80,000, $100,000, $120,000 a year, you're an engineer, you're a computer programmer, you're a nurse, you're a certified plumber, and you have very little debt, you can survive off of one income, especially if you're single. If you have a kid, maybe one kid, maybe. If you have a spouse who makes decent money as well and you have a couple kids, you should be fine. So it does all come down to your overall financial makeup. So, and maybe that's obvious to you. It's kind of obvious, but it's something that needs to be stated because sometimes we see videos like this and we're like, oh, it's so bad and no one can get by and people are doing everything they need to do, but they still can't get ahead, when really you have to really drill down and look to see what's really going on. That being said, guys, thanks for watching the video, sticking around. Until next time, make smart financial decisions.